scheduled to arrive at Newark Airport at 6:50 and will then depart at 9:45. But it was important enough for her to take time during her traveling on her vacation to be present tonight, so.
Mr. Butts?
Here.
Mr. Valentine?
Present.
Mr. Wetta?
Here.
Mayor Hill?
I'm present. Well, it's good to see everybody here this evening, and we're gonna get right to our audience participation. And the first person that we have is Mr.
Mary Hansel.
Oh, yes, sure.
Before you get to the two that's on the agenda, just
Oh,
to inform
right.
you, I did have two additional requests today to be placed on the agenda, or at least to speak. Dr. Whitener from USC 353 and J.D. Christie from JDC Development. As your rules and procedure state, it's your choice whether you wish to allow any additions on there tonight.
All right.
I would make a motion that we allow the 2 additions.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we allow 2 additional names to be added to our audience participation tonight. That is Dr. Mark Whitener and J.D. Christie. All those in favor, say aye. You guys get to do the best speeches you can. So, just a reminder that we do want to stick to purpose here tonight. So please state your name and your address when you come up to speak, regardless of whether I say your name or not. And we do have a timer. Carol, our city clerk, is also timing. So, because we do have a lot to get to this evening, so we want to make sure we move things along. The first to speak under audience participation is Mr. Scott McNett.
Excuse me, can we clarify the time limit? You said we're being fined. And what are we doing? 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
I'll take less. Hopefully. Thank you, everyone, for allowing the time tonight. Just briefly, what I'm going to try to stay on the topic here is my belief is the college could be good for Wellington. Initially, when I heard about this coming in, I thought it would be good. I communicated with some of the people that were involved very heavily bringing it in, Stacy Davis and some of them, via text messaging and Facebook. A lot of social media goes on. I had a lot of questions that I asked at that point in time, and wasn't really comfortable with some of the answers that I received. Quite honestly, therefore, I voted against it. Now, it did pass, it came in. It wasn't all that great of a margin, it wasn't all that overwhelming, it wasn't all that great of many voters that did that for something of this size. Anyway, what I'm talking about tonight, or want to bring to attention, is some of the things that come up is some of the proposals that the college, it looks like, has proposed to the city as far as some of the infrastructure and some of the things that are going to be built on there. Again, some questions came up, is like some of the expenses and who's going to pay for this. To me, it was kind of like the tax is already in place, and another question I had was who's actually controlling the purse strings? Who has the money? Who's going to be the one writing the check? Is it going to be the city? Is it going to be the county? Is it going to be the college? Well, this was a county-wide tax, but now all of a sudden we see the city of Wellington really deep into what's going on here. It looks like we're facing some additional expenses that were on top of some of the initial proposal. Those are some of the things, again, that kind of bother me, and I have some questions about those that I really hope that you can provide some answers for, or maybe you don't know the answers, because it seems like some of the things that are going on, we've all been kind of like blindsided, if you will. Maybe not blindsided, but not so much information shared and everything. Probably an analogy I could use on this, it was how it kind of made me feel was, we've all been up late at night, we watched an infomercial, and what they do is they propose a problem that you have in your life, and they say, we have the solution, and you buy into it. And I think that's kind of what the college has done. It's like, here's Wellington, you guys have a need, we can provide that, and we push for it, and we pushed for it, we pushed for it, because we have to admit, there was a lot of signs, there was a lot of activity for anything that's ever been on an election that I can remember in my lifetime here in Sumner County. A big push for it, big flooding, and then all of a sudden it came into being. And now it's like, we bought it, but now if you want this, oh, well, you're gonna have to pay for this as well. Oh, you want this? You bought the car, oh, you wanted an engine with that car? Well, now you're gonna have to pay for the engine and the wheels as well. It's always been, anytime some business or entity, and let's not fool ourselves, the college is a business. That any business that goes in, it's always been the city or the county or whatever government that's providing utilities for that, provides them up to their property line. No farther past. Whether it be the water, the sewer, electricity, anything like that, anything beyond that point, anything beyond that meter is up to the developer. It's their cost, and I've never seen such, where there's a cost share on this. It's sort of strange, like we're providing the taxes, we're providing the money. We give that money to the college, and then they're gonna turn around and ask for more. Who was the developer? Was there a bidding process put in place? Because it seems like this thing all went so very fast that there were some things already in the works that a lot of us weren't aware of. So, basically what I'm asking the city to do, or for the council to do, is we need to look at this thing a little bit. Because would we be in this situation right now if it was built across the road on county property? The county commissioners or somebody would be having to deal with this. But now it's on.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, my
McNabb.
time? So-
That's it.
Okay. Just final sentence, all I'm gonna ask for the council to do is let's table this. Let's not be in the hurry that this thing has been shoved towards us at. Let's slow down, let's look at it, let's ask some questions, let's get some answers, okay?
Thank you.
So, thank you.
All right, next up, under audience participation, Tammy Kleindienst.
My name is Tammy Kleindienst. I live at 709 North Jefferson. I want to say thank you for this time to speak. Over the last few weeks, I've been talking to several people, as well as doing some research on the subject of Cali County Community College. The general consensus that I've heard from the people is that they are very supportive of this educational opportunity. However, at the expense of the taxpayers and jumping into something that has veiled lines is upsetting to many of the citizens. The development of the budget is an important task to complete, but it is just more than compiling numbers, cuts, or increases. This budget planning is difficult. Been there, done that. The budget has to allow for what the citizens of the community need. Right now, the people of Wellington are hurting financially, economically, and personally. Through additional pulls out of their money, I don't believe that passing without planning for this future financing isn't the right thing to do. We're just looking at phase 1 right now. And from what I understand, the estimate of over $700,000 is being presented. And I don't know if that was planned for or not, but what happens when phase 2 is ready to start? Is that dollar amount ready so that can be built into the budget? If not, then how does that planning and being prepared allow you to build that program budget if the amount isn't known? I 100% support education and continuing education for anybody that wants and seeks it. It betters their life. It in turn supports building stronger families, and it builds lifelong goals that can be achieved. However, I do not support the cost that the city is considering, because the taxpayers are already paying something, and I know many people are scared and I think they're fearful right now for the future of Wellington. We need to live with security and stability. Right now, I fear that that may be at risk. Change can be good. Change is good, but needs to be planned and prepared for to make it successful. Keeping the people informed leads to respect and trust. I would like to ask each of you to consider the long-term effects on this community regarding increasing taxes and other financial burdens for our people. I don't think that costing our citizens more is going to build respect and stability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Nope, I'm sorry, ma'am, we
no,
don't,
just a
unless
moment.
you're on the
Just a
agenda.
moment, Just a moment. Can we bring some of the chairs that are in the employee lounge for additional seating behind the?
If you wanna do so, that's fine.
I'll bring one for myself unless anybody else wants one.
Okay. Next, under audience participation, it looks like Chief's gonna help you. Thank you, Chief. All right, next under audience participation, Dr. Mark Whiteman, our Superintendent of Schools.
Good evening, I'm Mark Whitener. I live at 2150 East 12th, so I live kind of right across the street from where all the big construction is going on. I want to start by thanking you for giving me time. I know I wasn't on the agenda, but I do appreciate it so very much, and I know how valuable your time is. And I also want to thank you for all of the support that you give the school district. The city is an amazing partner with the school district, and we know that you make us stronger. And we also know that you are a great partner because you care about our kids. So I want to thank you for that. I do want to give you just a few statistics, and I'll try not to bore you, and I'll try to go quickly. According to the Kansas Department of Commerce, by 2020, 71% of all jobs in Kansas will require post-secondary training. So that means kids need to get a welding certificate, they need to get a CNA certificate, they need to become a mechanic, an electrician, a plumber. You know, we need those desperately. 71% of all jobs are going to require that training. On average in the state of Kansas right now, 44% of our graduates 2 years out of high school have either received some training or are enrolled. So we have that fairly significant gap from what the Department of Commerce says we need to where we're at right now. And you know, things in the world are changing rapidly. And I was in Arc City recently, and they have a new McDonald's, which they're very proud of. And I don't know if you've been in it or not, but you don't have so much interaction with people anymore. There's a kiosk, you go up, you touch it, you order your food, you pay for it, and then there's a screen and it tells you when your food is ready. And so automation is really changing the way we do things. You know, we hear about self-driving cars. Now they're talking about self-driving semi-trucks. How would you like to be on the road with that? But from a business standpoint, they could have that sucker running 24/7, 365. It's coming. We know it's coming. Last week, I got a note from the Kansas State Department of Education, and they said in the next decade, the majority of jobs that pay $20 an hour or less will be gone within the next decade because automation is changing the way we do things. If you look at Amazon, now the world's third largest retailer, go on the website and look at their warehouse. There's no people. If you look at car manufacturers, because of automation, there's just no people there. You can't see them. And so the jobs are there, but the kids have got to get that training. And I would say the need for training, for post-high school training, is unprecedented. As I said, the jobs are waiting, but our kids need that training. So I think Callie probably gives us a great opportunity. And I would say the good news is, you know, as these jobs are going away because of automation, our world is changing so rapidly, but can you imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years, in a decade? It's going to be tough for our students to find jobs if they don't go forward and get that training. The good news is, though, there are many communities across our state that are providing training, and they're going to be far ahead of that curve when those low skill level jobs go away. And I believe that our community is preparing for that curve. And I think it's gonna be a stiff curveball for our families. We have already been working closely with the college to develop some programs, and you're gonna see a greater emphasis for those of you who are my age or older. Back in the good old days when we talked about vocational education, you're gonna see a return to that, where we're training our kids to be mechanics, welders, electricians, plumbers. We wanna get our kids out, and Callie is going to assist us as we do that. The district's strategic plan sets the goal that every high school senior, when they graduate, will have their diploma, but also either an associate's degree from Cali, or they will have an industry certificate, a welding certificate, a CNA, a mechanic certificate, something like that, so that our kids are ready for that. And if they want to go on and get a 4-year degree, they can put themselves through college, and they won't have that $100,000 debt that so many of our kids are graduating with. The communities that fail to recognize that this curveball is coming, I fear for them. I really do fear for them. I know it's difficult to lead. I know it's risky to lead. But our ability to do great things for our kids and our community, there may not be a greater chance than this. So I appreciate your support so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whitener, we appreciate it. All right, and our final audience participation is Mr. J.D. Christie. Mr. Christie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Wellington.
Mayor, members of the council, staff, and community, thank you for having me tonight and allowing me to say a couple words. I know it's a busy agenda, so I'll be brief. I am not a resident of Wellington. I'm from Overland Park. I'm a developer and am interested in developing in your town. We have a project that we're contemplating on the north side of 160, or Highway 160, and I'm here on my own accord to tell you guys that this is a very important to the future of this city as far as the development standpoint on the commercial side, as well as residential. Public incentives are necessary in today's market. I've been involved in numerous projects, probably 30 to 40 in different parts of the state, Missouri, Oklahoma, that it's just a necessary evil. Unfortunately, there have been developers that have ruined the reputation of myself, my partner, and people throughout this community. And small markets have to compete. And it comes down to numbers. Overland Park, a couple 100,000 people. Wichita, just the same. But it's the state of the community and the forward thinking of the members in the council that will either have ramifications for the future or set the future of Wellington up for success. Incentives aren't exclusive to Wellington. Markets with 500,000, 2 million, 3 million people do it. It's not a small market thing. It is just the state of the market with the cost of construction, infrastructure, that it's just a reality of what's going on today. Doctor alluded to Amazon. If you're a retailer, how can you not be, weary of Amazon? I mean, it's just part of what's going on in today's market. We work with national retailers and restaurants who asked us to come to Wellington. I'm not down here driving around towns looking for good pieces of dirt. We've been engaged by retailers we've worked with and restaurants that said that they want to be here, and it's because of the college. It is. And we've been down here and talking to them, and so that's why I felt it was important to be here tonight. Every retailer restaurant asks us in towns of 10,000 people or less, where is the critical mass? And that usually alludes to where's Walmart and where's the high school? That's where they want to be. And it's my understanding, did McDonald's move across town?
Yes, they did. Yep,
Okay.
sure did.
Some of the strongest markets in the state, Lawrence, Manhattan, Hayes, are built and embrace the educational aspect that they have. They're always reinvigorating themselves with student housing, new retail, all kinds of community development based upon the education. I do understand Lawrence and Manhattan are a lot bigger than Wellington, but it's still the same way, a little bit, yeah. But that's just the state of what's going on. And this is an unbelievable opportunity for the community to capture a big infrastructure plan like this and a big driver. I mean, how many people want to invest $12 million in a town of 10,000 people or under that's not named Walmart? I'm just trying to be completely respectful. It's just the way the market is right now. In conclusion, development breeds development, and momentum, and especially in the retail sector, is extremely important. You have to grow or your town will die. And I'm saying it with the most respect in my heart because I love small towns. I have hunting, hunt and fish in small markets, and I love the culture. You're not losing that small town culture by allowing national retailers to come. I disagree with people who think that because those people can sustain the downturns in the market. When you stop investing in retail, your residential stalls, and you lose the ability to retain jobs, as Dr. Whitener, I apologize, alluded to, how would you guys feel if the college, you gotta invest to keep these people here? You're gonna train them up, and if you don't invest in new restaurants, new retail, all you're gonna do is train, today's, young adults, and they're gonna move. And that's not a win-win for anybody. So I appreciate your time. I wanted to be as candid and brief as I could because it's extremely important to the city as well as the reputation of future retailers to have the college here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. We appreciate you coming down from a little park. Very much so. Perfect timing. All right. All right, with that, that concludes our audience participation. So we're going to move on to our consent agenda, which includes our approval of minutes, appropriations, and council correspondence. Do I have a motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve our consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, moving on. Reports of mayor and council. Mr. Adler.
I have nothing.
Mrs. Holly.
I have nothing.
Mr. Butts.
Nothing.
Mr. Valentine.
Well, I've got one or two things here. December 7th, 1941, was a tragedy for our entire country. It crippled this nation dearly. Monday, September 11th, 2001, we had another devastating blow from a terrorist attack in New York City. 2 days later, I sat down and I wrote a letter to Mayor Giuliani, the city of New York, and the President of the United States. I assume they received them. It came from my heart. And I think you need to veer away from things for this moment and listen to this, because we don't realize as a nation how lucky we are. I'm not talking about schools. I'm not talking about industry. I'm not talking about jobs. I'm talking about people. And people make all those things. So bear with me. Dear America, I have come to see you today. I did not bring you flowers. I did not bring you a card. I have brought you my feelings, my fears, and my prayers. You have suffered an ugly wound. Some of your people have been hurt terribly. Many have been lost. My heart goes out to you and those heroes who unexpectedly gave their lives. In a small way, I have seen what you are going through. I have seen this type of horror in a faraway land called Vietnam. I can tell you to be strong, and I know you will prevail. You are one nation under God, indivisible. I will not ask what you can do for me, but what I can do for you. You have given us 200 years of freedom. We will not let you down, I promise you. You will heal with the help of ordinary people, faced with extraordinary circumstances. My fears are that we should now realize that there is a clear and present danger in our world. We should not enter war lightly. We should have a clear and precise objective. We should go in with the best possible intentions and come out with nothing less than the best possible results. We must not fight a limited war for limited objectives, or all shall be in vain. And I can give you 62,022 reasons why this should be done. Their names are all on the wall in Washington, D.C. I want to assure you that I would give my life in your defense, as would others, I am sure. I would say to you now, it has been a horrible thing which has happened to you. I do not expect that we will, as long as we live, forget this horrific act of terror. We must take from this act and learn. Try to turn the negative into positive. Not losing sight of the past, but don't dwell in it. In time, perhaps, things will get better. This is my prayer for you, my America, the beautiful. Love, one of your sons, Jim Valentine. Thank you. That's all I have.
Jim, that was amazing. Thank you so
Very much.
much. Let's hear it for Jim. That was not only for those amazing words, but for your service. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Wetta.
I have nothing.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough act to follow. Yeah. I just thank you so much. It is so easy after so many years to forget, and so Jim, your reminder of what it felt like that day is very good, and I hope that we all take a moment on September 11th to remember what we were doing and for all those people who did pay the ultimate price. So, all right, I don't really have anything else, so we'll move on to our reports of city officials, and our first item is a street closing and special event application, and there are several, so.
Mayor and council, you have 4 special event street closings. The first is a request from an individual for the closing September 9th, Jefferson, or 2nd Street from Jefferson east to the alley for a block party, basically a birthday party. September 9th, 5 p.m. till midnight. The departments have all approved that, signed off on it. Simply needs a voice vote for approval if that's what you so desire.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the item A under street closings. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right.
Second request is from Washington Elementary School. It's for their jogathon, September 22nd, noon to 3:15 p.m. Washington between 17th and 18th, right there in front of Washington School. All departments have signed off on this. Departments involved, simply voice vote to approve if you so desire.
All right, I have a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve item B for Washington Elementary under street closures. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, get out and
Third
support Washington.
Third request is from the Chamber Director Anna Rose White is present. This is the annual Fall Festival. I believe this is the same streets on an annual basis that's closed. Washington Avenue, 7th to 8th. 7th Street, Washington, between Washington and Jefferson. And it's for the October 21st, 8 to 4 p.m., the annual Oktoberfest. So if there's any questions, she is here to answer any questions. Other than that, again, just a voice vote to approve if you so wish.
All right, anyone have any questions? All right, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Chamber Fall Fest street closing and homecoming celebration. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, good deal.
Fourth and final request is actually a special event. Again, Director White is here, can answer your questions. This is a request for the Antlers lot, which is already approved by code for 3.2 alcohol or beer. She's asking to increase that higher this year for a microbrewery during the Oktoberfest. Again, the same time, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. October 21st. City Attorney Desjardins, for you to approve that would require a public consumption area. So this is a request to do that. If you, so desire to do that, that will have to be a resolution brought to you next meeting. Director White is here to address any questions you have, if you have it. We just need to make you aware of that request, and then if you want to proceed with it, the resolution will have to be done to declare a public consumption area for that date, and time for that purpose.
This is Holly.
Is that the same area that the beer garden usually is in, or bigger or smaller?
Yes, it's the same lot, yes, and that was, yeah, very same location.
What do we mean by higher than 3.2?
The state of Kansas defines cereal malt beverage as 3.2 or less. We have control over cereal malt beverage, no licensing, but where it can be consumed. State law governs where alcoholic beverages can be consumed, which is any beer above 3.2 would be alcoholic liquor. We were trying to figure out a way to do it. We cannot pass an ordinance that expands an area the state already prohibits. And so the state obviously built in the ability for us to do that by this special event or public consumption area. Basically, if you approve that area for that day, those times, then they have to go to the state to get final approval of that, but it would allow us to, I guess, put a stamp of approval on it. It's the only way I can figure out that we could allow something like that to happen on any of our public property.
So we're talking about 6% beer, we're not talking about bourbon.
Right.
No. Anna Rose, do you wanna come forward and explain the event of what you're anticipating as far as entries into this microbrew testing?
Yes, so this is something that we considered doing for the Kansas Wheat Festival, but we decided to wait till Fall Festival for kind of these policy things. So basically what it would be is would allow people that they wanted to have a lager or something that had a higher alcohol beer content, just be able to have that beer because no one makes craft beer that's 3.2 or less. There are communities that are our size, some smaller, some larger, that have done microbrewery and micro distillery tasting events where they have had Kansas distilleries also come along next to the microbreweries. But at this time, we're just requesting to have higher alcohol beer, and we could revisit that other component at a later time. But simply just to allow us to be able to invite those places. So we touched base with some of those people around July, and we had a strong interest from breweries that did want to participate, but we obviously are not going to proceed further unless it's something that you guys approve.
And certainly the same safety precautions as far as identification and various other
Absolutely.
things will be in place.
Yep.
Mr. Wetter, does that settle your concern?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to do it.
All right.
All right.
I'll second that. No
Oh,
motion.
hold on.
No motion necessary, and we'll require a resolution, so that will be prepared and brought to you at the 19th meeting.
All right, sounds like you've already got a
But
couple
I
of
will
customers.
proceed with the anticipation to invite them.
Perfect. Thank you,
Thank you,
Anna
I
Rose.
appreciate it.
And we look forward, I know once we get, maybe another couple of weeks or a month down the road, a full, maybe fall
Yes, I'll give you a
festival.
full rendition. We do have the schedule of events for the Fall Festival as well as class reunions that we're aware of that'll be in town, and so we do have those online. I just sent a thing out to chamber members. We'll be giving it out to the media folks for us to start doing all that promotion, and I'll give you a final recap with this added event into the schedule. So thank you.
And it does coincide with homecoming.
It does, yes, and we're playing Mulvane.
Ooh.
The homecoming parade is at Thursday. I would invite any city council person to participate. The high school does organize the parade on Thursday, the 19th. So that'll be happening downtown, and then they have their pep rally in Heritage Park, which is a part of Memorial Auditorium. And then the game is Friday against Mulvane. We will win, right?
Go Big Red.
Can we pass a resolution for that? And then of course the fall festival activities.
Yeah.
I appreciate the enthusiasm.
All
So,
right.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. You're great. All right, so we've made it through the street closings, and it looks like Shane, we want to move ahead on the other. Did we vote on the street closing?
You voted on the previous street closing, yes.
Oh, we did for the Chamber Fall Fest? Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, so number 2 item under reports of city officials is a letter of opinion from City Attorney Shonda Jarnett regarding candidate Kleindick's proposal that she brought to the council on August 15th. Mr. DeJong.
Well, I think you'll have a letter if there's any questions. Obviously, some of it I felt could be done as she did tonight. She got on the agenda and address the council. There's some of it that I think creates issues with our open meetings and our procedures that would require us to make significant modifications. Even some of those I'm not sure would be acceptable in some open meetings.
Right. And time-wise.
I mean, I'm open for questions if there was questions about a specific part of the letter.
Any questions? I think it would be very difficult to get it done, I mean, legally and everything in a timely manner, so. All right. Anything else on that one? We don't have to take any action or anything. All right, number 3, street project updates. Mr. Shields.
Director Jones, this is on South 81 Clink and the Harvey Street improvement. Some significant information there we felt would be good to update you in the public, but the gentleman will provide that.
Give most of the information in the memo, but for the public, South 81 project, Cornejo and Sons about halfway through a 50-day working day project. They've poured 2 of those days, a little over 1,600 feet of main line, the 2 lanes. Wednesday and Thursday of this week, they will be pouring the 3-foot shoulders between the north end of the project and the middle of the APAC concrete plant entrance. Next week, they hope to get on south of there. They're actually going to start on the south end and pour north the southbound lane, and then the following Saturday do the northbound lane in that same section. So a little less than 2 weeks. Most of the main line paving will be done, which is the bulk of the project. From there, they'll start on some of the smaller items. They do have the intersection at Mill Street closed, and they're excavating that today. They'll get that poured back. They'll move to 4th Street. There's going to be a lot of different things going on, but it is progressing. They do have a lot of work, but I think they can get done within their 50 days. And then on the Harvey Street, we started milling the surface on August 23rd, and we've kind of had rough days ever since then. The contractor's milling machine broke down. They had to bring in an excavator to finish removing the asphalt surface. We found that the base was actually not aggregate rock, it was concrete. PEC, during the engineering, did 5 different core samples, and all of them came out with gravel base. But it's intact under the surface, but once you start getting into it, it does crumble up like gravel. Just a little more difficult to remove. We've had 3 or 4 shallow water service lines. We've got 3 shallow storm sewer lines, and gas companies in the area at 2 different locations, lowering lines. It's a lot going on there, but unfortunately, the progress of the Pearson has been slowing down, but they're still moving along, and I think we're still going to be fine on completion of the project on schedule.
Yes, Mr. Valentine.
You're going back with cement here?
Which project?
Harvey?
Harvey will be an asphalt surface.
Okay, asphalt, all right. I've had people ask me, and, you know,
Yes.
that's for sure now.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I want to know, thank you.
Keyword is progress. I heard you say that.
Unfortunately, it's inconvenient, both of them going on, but sometimes those inconveniences are needed to make the improvements.
Well, I've been down to look at Vandenberg down there, and these guys are doing an incredible job. They're doing, you know, and they're working. And they're working out there too, so, you know, just take it easy, let them get the work done, let them get the right thing. Thank
Well,
you.
we're looking for both of those to be complete about the same time, middle of October.
Oh,
So it's still a month and a half away, but fairly short period of time for the amount of work being done.
Weather holds.
well, if you have more days like today, it should be easy to get done. It was pretty awesome out there today. All right, anything else, Jeremy?
That's it.
Okay. All right, no public hearing, no ordinances. So we need to move on to resolutions. Our first resolution is a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to sign the final plat of Cowley College, Sumner Campus in the city of Wellington, Sumner County, Kansas.
This is the plat that has already gone to the planning commission, and Director Jones will provide those details of that planning commission hearing.
Planning Commission reviewed both the final plat and the site plan submittals August 22nd. Both were somewhat contingent, the final plat being contingent upon the addition of a legal description and a date of preparation, so those have both been met and are ready for final consideration with the council. The plat itself is relatively simple in 18-acre tract of land. We can say basically one street as it's a continuous loop. We have 4 different names on there on the plat. Actually 5, counting 14th Street coming off of William Drive, and then also on the other edge of the property. Dedication of 30 feet of right-of-way on the east edge of the property for Meridian Road for future construction if need be. We do not anticipate that that road would be a major road in that area and go too much further south due to structures and the lay of the land to the east. But it could act as an additional access point for this property. A couple of things that vary a little bit from our standard subdivision regulations would be the streets have a 34-foot right-of-way. Typically a 60-foot would be a minimum. That's going to have a 31-foot back-to-back curb and gutter road in there. Within the inside of the loop streets, we have 20-foot utility easements. That's going to serve a couple purposes for some water lines, possibly gas, telephone, storm sewer. And we have 1 block and 1 lot within the center of the streets, and then there's 3 reserve areas. Reserve A being basically all the area outside of the roads on the north half of the property, Reserve B on the south side, and then Reserve C, a small portion on that southwest corner in there. Water, we also have a utility easement on the south edge of the property, a 20-foot easement there, and then there's a couple of easements along 14th Street, all to help carry utilities through the property. There was an existing easement to Arc Law, gas easement of 100 feet on the east side there. That was in existence at the time of basically the development starting up there. Engineers have contacted that gas company and have confirmation that the road can be built within that easement, providing there's certain separations from their physical pipe in the ground. So that would also, could be utilized for public utilities in addition. Electric, let's see, water, we have a 12-inch line on the west side of the property. Electric, we have underground at the southwest corner of the property. Sanitary sewer, we utilize Beaver Creek line and a manhole in the compost site, and we'll extend over to the short property to the south and run along the east edge up to the southeast corner of subject property, and then there will be approximately a 900-foot sewer line running east to west at the south end of the property. Drainage has been reviewed. Drainage study has been submitted by MKC, reviewed by PEC. Everything appears to be in good order there. They will have a dry retention basin within the property. We will also get sidewalks along the east side of William Drive and the inside interior of the property within the loop street. A couple of things that have not been approved yet from the Planning Commission would be signage and lighting details. Architects and engineers and the college themselves are not to that point in their planning stages to have the details needed for that. So Planning Commission has recommended approval of the plat with those two items to be considered at a later date. And then once they review it, it'll come back. So we have a couple of different things. We have the final plat to consider, and then also the site plan. The resolution would be for approval of the plat, and then a voice vote would be appropriate for the site plan.
Okay, say that again, Jeremy.
The resolution in front of you would be for the final plat,
Okay,
and then ordinance also requires review of the site plan. And that could be a approval by voice vote rather than resolution.
okay, a voice vote to review the plan.
For the site plan.
Site plan.
So if we want to stick with the final plat at this time and then get into the site plan,
Okay,
however you wish.
all right. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, thoughts?
I make a motion we approve.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to sign the final plat of Cali College, Sumner campus in the city of Wellington. Madam Clerk?
Is Mrs. Cordy online? Okay. Mr. Butts?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
No.
Mr. Wetta?
Yes.
Mr. Etter?
Yes.
Mrs. Holly?
Yes.
So we have 4 affirmative votes for resolution 5838.
Just a side note, I normally don't like to text during a council meeting, but for those of you wanting to know, the JV volleyball team has won their first 2 matches. So that's the text that I'm getting, so I'm getting updates. I just want to be transparent that my texting up here has nothing more to do than trying to juggle being a mom and the mayor all at the same time, so. Anyway, go Big Red. All right, our next resolution is a resolution.
We need the.
Oh, right, we need the voice vote for the site plan. Okay. So,
Site plan, I believe, is also in your agenda packet. Basically, we're looking at more specifics on the development of the property. Staff has gone through and made a list of everything within the ordinance and reviewed those items one by one. But you see the 2 buildings, short building and the technology building, where those are situated on the property in relation to the streets and the parking lots, the retention pond, basically east of the technology building. Main entrance for the property will be off of 14th Street, or by 14th Street off of William, and then entering into the Lucas Loop. To the north there would be the entrance to the parking lot. You can see the 20-foot easement within the interior of the loop, and then we have a water line, proposed water line there with the hydrant locations, the 31-foot curb and gutter street, and the proposed storm water system, and the appropriate piping for that. One of the questions brought up in review at the Planning Commission was the parking. There currently are 93 parking stalls provided on this site plan. The ordinance requires 40% of the student capacity, and it appears that they pretty much meet that. The specific question was, what about faculty? any other employees of the college. Our ordinance does not make reference to accounting for those individuals. However, after planning commission and during another meeting, there is a community space within the building with a potential occupant load of 100. Looking at the potential accounting that as an assembly occupancy, that could be an additional 25 parking spots required. Manager Shields and I met with Dr. Riddle and the architects last week and discussed this. There is, I think what they're offering would be in the grass area west of the technology building, a gravel parking lot, possibly gravel with grass grown over it as an overflow area. That would be an additional 39 spaces. They would lose 3 of the spaces on the site plan there for access to that parking lot. That would give us a total of 129 spaces. That's getting close to that. However, gravel parking lot is not something allowed in our ordinance. Staff does not have the authority to grant that approval. That would have to be approved as part of the site plan by the council.
Excuse me, can I ask a
Yes.
question? So if we approve the site plan tonight, we're ultimately approving the use of the gravel parking lot? We talking about doing that voice vote tonight?
Yes, that would be. They have the asphalt parking on the north side there. And as overflow parking, I think, and maybe I'd let Dr. Riddle speak specifically to this, but I think there's some thought that their programs, the way they're set up with a lot of high school students, would generate more busing rather than individual vehicles. Unfortunately, we have an ordinance that we try to enforce, and sometimes it's a little difficult with the variances in operations. So again, staff, I don't believe has the authority to vary from the ordinance. However, it could be approved by the council in the site plan. But it would be gravel to the south of the asphalt parking there.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
How big of an area in comparison, gravel to asphalt are we talking? I mean,
It pretty much fills the majority of the grass
If you
area.
could come to the podium and identify yourself, this is one of the architects, so.
I'm Sherry Holst with Agora. It fills the majority of the area to the west of the technology building, but it does not extend any further south in the southernmost portion of that building.
Did I miss why this wasn't being paved?
We don't think that it's gonna be required, so we've discussed that this would just be an intermediary. The college can schedule events between, classes, and, we don't think that the parking will be required. Dr. Riddle could speak to that more, but, we understand from the staff that they would like to have this just to make sure that there's not anyone that cannot find a place to park during an event.
Worst case scenario would be if you had full number of students and all classes were going on at the same time, and then you had 100 people in the community area, that you could run out of parking. I think their thoughts would be that wouldn't necessarily be the case. If that did happen, it would be a very, very rare occasion. So this would basically be an area that if they did need the additional parking, it would be available. There could be signage pointing to that area, but otherwise it would just appear to be a grass open area.
And, go ahead.
Well, I'm just gonna say, Dr. Riddle, if you would like to comment, I mean, certainly, I would think, should be allowed to make the same points you made to us, to this council. council, I mean,
I'll give you a good example, and thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share a few thoughts. For example, very noteworthy Hall of Famer Darren Dalton just passed, and we're going to be having his passing ceremony in the Right Room over in Arc City. In order to accommodate that, we're looking at a space that we're going to need about 400 people. We can't do that during the weekdays, even no matter how you cut it. And so as a result, we'll do that on the weekend. And so what we do is we always schedule those spaces based upon what we have for capacity. The community room won't just be used for the community, it'll be used for students to be learning. It's a space in which sometimes we'll go ahead and have theater, development, other activities. We know that in the evenings, they'll get used more by the community, particularly on weekends, which is when we will not have as many students there. During the daytimes, when we do have students there, primarily through the high schools, whether it's working with the superintendent here in Wellington, working with the superintendent in Oxford, Argonia, South Haven, what have you, Caldwell, they'll be coming in, but during the daytime, and they're gonna be using mass transportation, most, talking with those superintendents. Why? Because cost effectiveness, those are taxpayer dollars. And so this parking meets our needs as far as the college goes, and should we have a very, very unusual event, then overflow would still allow folks to have a place to park where they wouldn't have to feel like they have to park somewhere else, even though we know there's also parking across the street, well, just a little across the way. We understand that does not apply to ordinance, even though we have already a very, very good relationship with Walmart. But this would be a way in which we could contain this on the property. And then should we see an issue forthcoming in the future, then we would adjust accordingly. But this space for us will be more than adequate. Thank you.
That's what I really wanted to hear, that you feel that this is
Oh, yes.
adequate parking.
We're more concerned that people are gonna be saying, where are all the people, or they're all in there, but they're just coming through different means of transportation, through larger vehicles, or maybe even through by foot.
Okay.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Dr. Riddle. I appreciate you being here as well this evening. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions about this?
I move we do it.
All right, and this is just a voice vote, correct? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we go ahead and approve review of the site plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
All right. All right, item number 3 is for Cali College, Sumner Campus, petition for paving and certificate of the city clerk. The governing body of the city must find and determine that said petition was signed by owners of record of the property liable for assessment for the proposed improvements, and is therefore sufficient in accordance with the provisions of the act.
you need to go to item 2.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, sorry. That was a big faux pas on my part. Didn't do that, okay. Item number 2, a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the developers agreement to conditions for Cali College, Sumner Campus, City of Wellington, Kansas. Mr. Shields.
The developers agreement, just to provide a brief review, obviously everything is in your packet, hopefully you've had time to review that. Many discussions with the Cali staff and city staff. This is the conclusion of what is being proposed to you. Just to run through the, number 1, this contains a number of different legal terms. I mean, in the developers agreements in the past, I mean, housing typically is what we've had, developments, we've had a couple of commercial. The streets, the design cost is a 50-50 split with Cali. That design cost is $56,000. The construction cost is again a 50-50 split with Cali. That total construction cost is $250,960. The stormwater sewer on the site is 100% Cali, that's $95,500. There's city administration cost listed at $47,920. There's administrative costs listed for both streets, water, and sewer, all 3 of those items. That, for the biggest portion, is inspection costs that the city would have. That may very well be we do internally, so we would not actually have that cost. That may not be a cost that needs to be financed. The traffic signal, just going in order A, B, C, and D on the developers agreement. The traffic signal is 25% Cali for $47,125. The intent is to have 25% paid by Walmart. The developer's agreement with Walmart from a number of years ago states that they will pay their fair share. It wasn't defined, but their fair share of Cali's paying 25, we would deduce would be 25. That leaves 50% cost for the city, $94,250. The important item there to note is it's at the point in time of the traffic signal is necessary. Obviously, US 160, that will be a KDOT, Kansas Department of Transportation approval, when that's required. Doubtful that that will be required at least for a couple of years into the project. That again may not be a cost that we finance at this point in time. It will be a main traffic way when that time comes, so that could be something that's financed at a later date. The sanitary sewer, the design for the line on site, 50-50 split. Design cost $12,100. The city construction, or the construction of that on-site is 100% city for $71,119. Again, city administration costs listed there $9,226. The extension of the sewer from our Beaver Creek facility up to the property is 100% city cost. Design is $20,500. The actual construction is 5% Cali, $8,430, and 95% city, $160,170. We certainly would recommend, staff, we've already discussed, future impact fees for that. That line may very well serve other properties if development continues. We certainly would recommend that we look into impact fees and initiating impact fees to recover some of that. The water is a 50-50 split in design, $16,100, and a 50-50 split in construction, $94,907. The administration cost listed there is $12,351. For electric, for the city to connect to the meter connection, 100% city cost is $60,000. The developer's agreement calls for anything over and above the typical standard build of the city. They've talked about some street lighting that may be above what we would typically do. That will be their cost. That is an estimate, clearly an estimate right now is $20,000. The storm drainage is then referenced again on the developer's agreement. Again, that's 100% Cali. Sidewalks that, according to the plat, are 100% Cali cost. That's the basic details, the important items as far as cost regarding the developer's agreement. You do have a spreadsheet that's included in your packet that kind of outlines the cost that I just went through. With that, if there's any questions, certainly Dr. Riddle and staff are here. They can address perhaps any questions from their side that you may have. But that's where it is at this point.
Great. Any comments or questions from the council?
Is this basically what the work session we had, is pretty close to what we talked about?
The work session was clearly, my attempt to get some desire from the council. Certainly the streets were discussed. That was the main topic of that work session, whether they be public or private. The conclusion of the consensus of that, after that work session, was that they be public and that the city would cover 50% of that. Sewer and water, we didn't talk about in detail in that respect that night. Water is typically 50-50, that's what it's been in, well, again, the housing developments are the main thing we have to compare to that happened. Obviously, all three of those didn't proceed. Walmart, Crippa, the Motel Coming Soon site, that was a developer's agreement that was already in place, that was adopted. That didn't proceed, the motel site. That's really the most recent commercial developer's agreement that we have in place to go back and compare to.
And what was that?
The Crippa was Boundary Road to the north property line. The developer was going to pay up to $100,000 towards that. The 8-inch water line around the building, city 100% design and construction. Sewer, the city had already extended an 8-inch main to the site, 100% 100% design and construction by the city. The electric city, the property line 100%, drainage 100% construction. And there was also going to be an IRB with a full 10-year tax abatement and an 8-year term of 100% return of the tourism tax dollars to that business or operation.
So for this private hotel business, we were offering almost 100%
For the most part, yes.
for the most part, okay. Shane, I guess my question is how important, for future development is it for us to, I guess my question is what we're talking about just going to benefit the college, or is there potential for more development out there by doing this?
Well, the Beaver Creek line, extending that line is certainly what will be, it's gonna be necessary for any development of this property. That will serve other properties to the south, potentially that might occur. Certainly the sewer extension is absolutely something that will have to happen for any other development out there.
And we're making it big enough that it will handle more development.
Yes. Yes, certainly
Yes.
should, yeah.
So that when Mr. Christie's development comes to our community, we'll have plenty of storage or whatever we need for him. Yes, Mrs. Hogg.
I just wanna make a couple of comments. One, this council has been fully aware of business incentives, things that we can do, things that we have tried to do to get other businesses to come here, new businesses. I think we need to, clarify the difference in between our incentives for the college and incentive for, say, Mr. Christie's, project. I'm pretty sure we won't vote for a sales tax increase to help his business. So there's nothing already on the plate. With the Cali College, we voted with the majority, and I don't know how these guys voted, but we voted to support the college. We wanted that, and we were willing to give a sales tax increase to that. But to compare one as an incentive and apples, they're two different things. We've already given Cali College, they will already get for the next 10 years a significant amount of the residents' money. And so by saying that, we're stifling growth, we're really not. We've already voted for the college. I've already shown my support. I'm a Cali College alumni. If it wasn't for Cali College existing and having satellite classes, I wouldn't have received my 2-year, which means I probably couldn't have afforded to go on and finish my business degree at WSU. So I appreciate education. I know what it will do. It's two different things. Just like comparing a for-profit business to an organization that already gets a sales tax increase, you can't compare a vote to support the college and also want to support this. It's not all in or all out. We should have the ability, and the individuals should have the ability to say they don't want this for whatever reason. And my thought is, we're sitting up here and it's a no-win situation. We vote yes and it passes. I got half the town irked, I passed no, I got the other half irked. And the thing that it comes down to is I literally had 0 say in this agreement. Yes, we had a work session before negotiations started. Absolutely nothing that I said, that I stated, that I thought went into this. So, what I would like to see us do is actually take, staff work hard on this negotiations, bring it to us in a work session, and let us hash out something that's gonna work, and not something that's gonna divide the community. That's my first thought. My second thought is, what do we have? What's Cali got invested in this that's going to make them fight 100% for the benefit of Wellington and for the education they have? We're funding it, we're supporting it, they have all the control of all the funds. What happens? Play Debbie Downer for a minute. What if in 4 or 5 years we don't have the numbers to keep this open? Where's the city at with the expense that we have? Those are questions that, I think are very simple to answer. But yet I haven't gotten any answers, and I haven't seen any information come my way. I would would really like an opportunity to sit down and discuss this, like I think a decision of this way should be met in a work session. That's all I got.
Absolutely.
Member Hall, I realize you're one member, I understand that, but it was asked at least once whether you wanted to have a work session to discuss into more detail of this developer's opinion, so I just want to point that out. And I understand you're one member.
I would like to say that I feel similar to, Councilmember Hawley. I am absolutely in support of the college. I voted for it, obviously, I have to take my word for that. I put the signs in my yard. I've got 2 daughters that graduated from there. I've got numerous family members that went there as well, friends. I am all in for the college. That said, I've been contacted by a lot of individuals throughout the community, both sides, different opinions, and I appreciate that. You know, I signed up for this, so to say, and one of the comments I made to one of them was, it doesn't matter whether I vote yes or whether I vote no, I've upset the majority. I know it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's a no-win situation up here. Regardless of what's gonna happen, we're gonna fill, you know, we're gonna be the ones up here catching the tomatoes, and again, we signed up for that. What concerns me with it is along the same lines as what Councilmember Holly said, was that we've had less input and less decision with regards to this particular expenditure, if you will, and this decision, which is a major decision, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've had work sessions on things that were considerably smaller issues than this. I don't know what the rush would be. I've supported it up to this point with regards to blindly voting yes for things up to this point to help to press this along as fast as we possibly could. And I can tell you that my hope was during those times, and I expressed it, is that we can tap the brakes at some point and sit down and have a work session in order to answer these questions. We just had a special meeting, council meeting, in order to pass the budget. I would not be opposed to having a special meeting if time is that important to pass this thing. I think the most sensible thing to do with this tonight would be to table it, have a work session, make sure that anybody and everybody that would like to talk and speak about it can speak about it, and then we can move forward with it.
Yeah, we do that.
I do support the college, period, the end. And I have supported it every vote up to this point, and I will continue to support it, but I have to also be conscious of the city's finances and what's going to be best ultimately for the city long term. With regards to the college and this being an investment with regards to, it is truly an apples and oranges. You're not going to be generating the mill levy, you're not gonna be generating the sales from sales tax. It's a very unique situation, and it's a great situation. But again, as elected officials, we have the responsibility to sit there and say, unfortunately, what if something didn't happen and we continued down this trend of losing population and the sales tax dwindles to a level where the college is not able to continue on? Then who's gonna pick up the bill? And now we're on the hook for all this. So that's where I'm at, is I'm in support of the college, but I would think the best thing to do for us tonight would be to table this portion of it, have a work session, iron out all the details, make sure it's on the complete up and as transparent as can be. Have everybody there, have the college there, members of the community, everybody, and then move forward from there.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Well, I don't know what, I've made known how I'm gonna vote on this. And there's a lot of reasons, that, as you said, a lot of reasons to vote no, a lot of reasons to vote yes. As far as, how, I had quite a conversation with a family member of mine about this. And I gotta go to sleep at night and be comfortable with my vote. And that's what I'm gonna do, whether we vote tonight or whether we table it or I feel that with the airport expansion, with the streets, all the other things that we're handling, you put all this together, we have to do this. We have to do these projects. And I'm one of the guys, gonna be 72. Yet it looks like the older guys would be against this, and the young people would be for it, because 2 of my sons went to junior college. And this Wellington voted down a junior college years ago, which, look what that could have done for us. I think this is I seriously feel if we don't do this, we will end up being a chicken blank little town into the future. And I've said that over and over, and that's why I'm gonna vote yes, whether we vote tonight or whether we vote in the future.
I have one more question.
Sure.
I know during one of what the city's gonna finance, what above and beyond what we would normally do for any other development that Cali College is asking us to do for them. I guess my question is, if we do what we do for any other business, for John Doe and Jane, or any small mom and pop that wants to expand out there, what we would normally, whatever, protocol is we do for them, what if we did that with Cali College? Yet they picked up the rest of that cost through the sales tax dollars. I think people are being led to believe that Cali College won't exist, that it won't be fun. So somebody from Cali College stand up and explain and help me understand and clarify it for the people. What would happen if you guys had to pick up the other 50% of the streets because we changed our mind that they're not really public? So, I mean, just, I think the people want to know, because it seems like, and maybe I misunderstood Mr. Webb, but this is gonna get built. This is coming to Wellington. This is a good thing. So, this is, we're not here deciding whether to make or break Cali College. We're just deciding how much of the tax money that our citizens pay that are gonna go for added infrastructure that normally wouldn't be covered. I mean, that's all. I mean, we're gonna have to pay some of it anyway, and we'd pay it for no matter what came. Well, what would be the difference? Would it be a little bit longer to build? I mean, would you not open in the spring of 18 or 19, or is that the adjustments that you would make?
If you'll give me a moment.
Yes.
Thank you, all council members. Take everybody on a journey. This journey began 27 months ago, not a year ago, not in November of 2016. It began in July of 2015. That's when this journey began. We came over to Sumner County at the request of the businesses and the education centers, and they said we need a greater presence of the college in Sumner County. We looked at Sumner County, less than half of the percentage of the population attends the college compared to Cali County. So we recognized that the presence of the college in Arc City had a profound and an exponential impact upon the county. We checked the national studies. The average community college across the United States of America, over a 10-year longitudinal study, we found that once you go beyond about 12 to 15 miles radius, the attendees at that college campus go down exponentially. In other words, once you go outside that radius, the students who have the greatest need are the ones who oftentimes cannot attend because of economical cost, transportation, childcare, other life needs. That's not us, that's nationally. So as we began to meet with all these individuals, we realized, we talked about the past. We talked about how Cali College used to have storefronts and how they would stand up and they would fail. Why? Because the dollars weren't there. There was no community life. So we recognized if we were gonna do this, we were gonna make a model that's not existed in the state of Kansas, because this model does not exist in the state of Kansas. Does not. When we rolled this out, we said we're going to talk about a comprehensive college in this county, which right now, if you go to the other 18 community colleges, they do not have. They have sites. They have little locations. They have little storefronts. They don't have a comprehensive campus. We began to talk about how we fund that. I met with the county commissioners in November of 2015. That was my first meeting with the county commissioners. We began to talk about how we could manage this. We saw the need. We interviewed over 1,000 Sumner County residents. That included, we surveyed every school district, all the high schools. We interviewed professionals, and we asked them a number of questions. One of the greatest takeaways was that 86% of those respondents said if they could get a job from high school, they wanted to complete their education in 1 to 2 years, and they wanted to stay in Sumner County. That was mind-boggling. Your citizens, your neighbors want to stay in this county. Do you know, as an educator now for almost 25 years in higher ed, I began working in education over 30 years ago, volunteering for the YMCA to help people complete their GEDs. That was my beginning work. And as I worked with these individuals, I would talk to citizen after citizen, and the statement they would say is, when I finish high school, the first thing I want to do is leave the place I'm living. But that is not what your citizens said. It's not. And that caught our attention. So we said, how do we do this? We began to work through the funding model. And we looked at mill levy, looked at sales tax, all these different ways in which we could make a comprehensive college here. And I'm sorry I'm being a little lengthy here, but I think it's important to hear the story. So we began this journey, and when we worked with the individuals, they said we didn't want to take on a mill. You have to understand, your sister county, just a number of miles away, their investment right now is 4 times greater than what's being generated by this sales tax. I'm not diminishing the sales tax. I just want you to understand, when you're looking at investments, a college that's been existing now for 95 years, people say, well, how do you get a campus like that? Well, they've been investing substantially for 95 years. So we said, how do we do this? How do we subsidize education? How is it that I can offer education for students and an engineer going to Wichita State University and save them tens of thousands of dollars when they transfer over there? How do I do that? I do that through subsidized cost. I have the same qualified faculty, but the challenge is cost. It's because it's a community college. So the college exists. When we interviewed those individuals, 70% or so of those individuals said if they had opportunity to attend Kelly College, they would. So there was a tremendous interest. We realized there's a lot of interest in the college right here. Then we asked them this question. I think this is really important for you as council members to hear. Very, very important. People will talk about the vote, and they'll talk about the margin of the vote across the county. Does anybody know what the vote was here in Wellington? Does anybody know? I know what it is. Do y'all know what it was? About 80%, yes, in Wellington. Wow. Why is that? I'm going to say something that I may get stuff thrown at me later. It's because every other town in this county wish they could have been you. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. I deal with this in Kelly County a lot. They wish it were you.
Question?
Hold on.
Okay, you said 80%.
Yes, sir.
What was the total number? You said in Wellington voted. I have to know how many registered voters there are.
I don't.
Can you give me a number?
I don't know the raw numbers, sir. I only had the percentage. I do know that the overall voting for the county was north of 9,000, which was greater than your last couple of elections.
9,000.
Over 9,000 for the county, which was greater than the previous few elections. Yes, sir. You actually had a very substantial turnout for voting. And we were actually placed as your last item on the ballot. So your citizens had to vote yes for a half-cent sales tax for the county for emergency services, and then followed up by half-cent sales tax for the college. To say that the deck was stacked against us is an understatement. I had legislators saying it was the most miraculous vote they'd seen in their lifetime, and they're not young people, sir.
You know, we have 5,441 registered voters in this state.
Been a few years since I've been in that position, so.
5463.
You're talking
5463.
city versus county. He's giving county numbers at 9,000. City has
I know he
5,000.
said county. I'm talking about the city. That's what I.
Yes, I don't know the numbers on the raw city.
Regardless, it's 80%. 80% of those that voted in Wellington, Kansas said they wanted this college.
Yes, ma'am. And that's largely because, and I've gone around, our biggest challenge when we were even talking across the county was, folks said, wow, I wish I was Wellington. When we talked to individuals, why is it in Wellington? Wellington was actually decided by those who were surveyed. 74% of the respondents said they wanted it in Wellington, and those were folks that did not live in Wellington. Why was that? Because they recognized it at the centerpiece of the county. So the crossroads. You're geographically very, very opportunistic. The citizens realized that, not the college. We didn't drive this. This has been grassroots from day one. Grassroots. Now, to speaking to the dollars come down to his business model. For me, I'm a philosophical person. I'm a person built on ethics and rightness and wrongness. The college comes in with a model. The college's model has always been our streets are public. They're handled by the public. You can go to our main campus, you'll see that all over the place. They're public roads. The city takes care of those issues for us. They manage that because it's a partnership. We have over 500 community events on our campus, Councilmember Holly, every year. Community is very involved. We do that because we are a partner with the community. We view ourselves as much as a giver as anything else. The return on investment based upon EMSI, that's an economical study, was recently done in Cali County. The taxpayers there give about $4.8 million a year to the college. They receive back over $62 million in first and second degree monies back to the community. Back to the community. It's amazing. There's reasons why Cali County right now is ranked number 11 of all the counties in Kansas for manufacturing jobs. Those things don't happen by accident, council members. They do not. So when we got into this, we heard Councilmember Etter, I still remember you speaking, sir, and you set out the statement. I know Mr. Shields caught the same statement, and that is you said you were looking for something about a 50-50. And so that's what all of us worked toward. It wasn't the college's business model. It wasn't the city's business model. It's what we heard you say collectively as a council. I'm not saying every member. That's what we heard, both the city and the college. So when we set to do this work, we went after it from that angle. Did it cost the college more than we would have projected? Absolutely. Has it cost some of the project? Yes. Yes. People say, what's your stake in it? The college has a lot of risk involved here, a lot more than folks will ever realize. We began doing work long before any pennies showed up in our pockets. Long before. We've only been receiving tax dollars. Dr. Walker, am I right on this? Is it 2 months now we've received so far? 2 months is what we've received so far. And yet we have put in thousands of hours. I don't know if that even quantifies how many hours have been invested. Because why? We believe in people. We believe in you. We ourselves believe very deeply in the communities. As I share with all of our colleagues from day one, all the VPs who have put in so many more hours, it's bigger than all of us. So when people ask, what's the consequence? We've already had to shave off space from certain buildings. It's already had to be shaved off. The dollars aren't there. You have to understand, when we went forward with this, we were hoping for a half-cent sales tax for 20 to 30 years. The law limits it to 10. I will not strap taxpayers with dollar in debt that goes beyond foreseeable revenue availability. Do we know if those sales tax dollars are going to come in over the next 10 years? We don't. That's a risk we're taking. We're taking. That's the risk Cali County taxpayers are taking. There's a lot of risk here involved, but we've done our homework. When I spoke to the Technical Education Authority and the Kansas Board of Regents who are going to be down here for groundbreaking on October 11th at 1 p.m., you're going to have the CEO and the president of the Kansas Board of Regents. You're going to have the chair of the Technical Education Authority. You're likely going to have one of our U.S. senators or one of his delegates here. Why? Because these people believe in this project. The college believed in it so deeply that we went to the legislature this past year and we had passed unanimously in the House and the Senate the first of its kind to have a member of this county added to the College Board of Trustees on January. That has never happened, folks. Never. And yours truly had to go up to Topeka multiple times, testify, and do lobbying for that end. Why do we do that? Because we believe if there's taxation, there should be representation. It's simply that straightforward to us. We're in the business during higher education. We're in the business of helping communities. And I can tell you truthfully, we have worked our tails off to bring this to you today. Our tails off. and we work through creative solutions. We've made cuts. We don't want to make any more cuts. We start making other cuts, people are going to miss it. I know my architects are behind me. Conco donated all their pre-engineering to us, tens of thousands of dollars. Why? Because they believe in it. So a lot of people believe in this project. Why? Because we're committed. We will stand with you, we'll stand beside you, and at times we'll lift you up, and we also at times you help lift us up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Riddle, very much. All right, Mrs. Hall.
Answering your
I got a
question.
couple more questions
Yes,
while
ma'am.
we're doing this, and,
It's fair.
let's get back to my original question. I do appreciate the background. I think a lot of people need to hear that, and a lot of people are watching this. If the city cuts back on what they pay in the developer's agreement,
We'll
what
make cuts
effect
in
will that have?
construction. We'll make cuts in construction. It will lose space.
You wouldn't just wait out another 6 months to.
There's no
collect
way.
that.
We've actually already taken out the loan against the projected revenue that will happen over the next 10 years.
Okay.
So we can build this. If we waited, you wouldn't have a campus for 8 more years. You don't understand, the dollars that are coming, we're spending it on construction.
Oh,
You
no doubt.
don't build 2 buildings and develop an entire
Right.
site.
I
for
really
what we're
think
looking
that
at.
most of us up here really understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, we are businessmen and we're businesswomen.
Sure. Well, let me leave it this way.
We're not familiar with Cali College
Yes.
business models, but I mean, we can.
The Innovation Campus, Councilmember Holly, was up in Wichita, is being built for $34 million. That's one building. We're developing an entire site and building 2 buildings with a courtyard for under 12. We are stretching every penny to the nth degree. We're buying product well in advance while it's still affordable before yet another hurricane hits.
And
There's a
Dr.
lot of risk at play here.
I'd just like to make a motion that we table this issue until council can sit down in a work session and with Cali County, and we can just ask the rest of our questions rather than voting with only half answered, or that's my thought. I think we need to table it, not take the vote tonight.
I'll second your motion.
Wait, okay.
Mr. Wennon, did you have something? Yeah.
What will that do, what will that accomplish?
Yeah. Where's that gonna leave us? And Dr. Riddle, more importantly, where is that gonna leave the college?
You won't have a tech center open in fall of 2018. It's not gonna happen. Conco is already out there working now because we're under such a tight timeline. We've been faced, we'll have people say to us, why can't you be building in March when the tax hasn't even collected? It's because there's a tremendous amount of work involved. Then folks will say you're moving too fast. Yet we convened 3 cross-sectional member groups from Sumner County to help design the site in each of the buildings. We have gone very meticulously but very aggressively. Why? Because we have some folks that want it yesterday. You have to understand that. We face the same challenges. I assure you, the superintendents across the state, across this county, they want this open or ready in fall. We're doing everything we can to meet some of those outcomes. We table it, I'm not lying to lie to you, we don't meet it. It's that straightforward.
Yes,
So what
Mr.
you're,
Eder.
Dr. Riddle, what you're saying is, and I'm just trying to clarify,
Yes, sir.
that if we table this until the 19th,
About
2 weeks, no, September 19th, I'm saying 2 weeks. And in between that time, between tonight, the 5th, and the 19th, we figure out a way to schedule a work session where we can, discuss these things, that 2 weeks is gonna be that instrumental.
I need to ask a question. I know right now, I'm not making this up.
No.
Councilman Eder, they're counting time right now by hours, not even days.
You had your work session, and then when did you approve it after that? How much more time after that would you approve it?
We have a scheduled meeting on the 19th, and as I said, I'm only one, I can only speak for myself, but I don't have a problem even having a special calling a special meeting. I mean, we had to do that for the budget. This is something that I'm in favor of. This is something that I voted yes for, I'm willing to support. The position that I'm put in is that I've got questions and I need more answers, and I think that based upon the way that this has transpired and how we got to where we're at this very second, that there are citizens that their dollars or their tax dollars are the ones that are being spent that may have questions as well, and I think it's the best case scenario to allow them to have that same opportunity. So what as I said before, what I would love to see happen is that we have a work session, and I will do anything I can to possibly rearrange my schedule in order to make that happen. I'll meet on the weekend, I don't care. In between now and the 19th, and we can vote on it on the 19th, or if we can have a work session before that and we want to have a special meeting, I'll do that too. So that's where I'm at. I voted yes all the way through to this point, to try and be conscious of and in agreement with regards to your timetable. I just want to be able to be as transparent as possible.
I understand that, Counselor, and I'll just make one comment from my perspective, and I don't want to speak from the city's perspective. I know we try to take everything you shared with us and took that and applied that to that developer's agreement. Mr. Shields, I don't know how many times we've met and I don't know how many times we've communicated, and with other members, we have spent an incredible amount of time. And for us, it seems a little bit disingenuous, because I know we have Conco waiting and others waiting. They're ready to move. They're ready to make things happen. And we also know if adjustments have to be, if you throw us a curveball and don't approve the developer's agreement, and I have to go back and do renovations to designs, that's gonna set us even further back.
I can tell you that I think it would be in your best interest to table it tonight and wait till we have a full council, but that's just my own opinion on that. Sure.
It's a community project. Listen to the community.
But the communities have months and months and months to weigh in, and I think an 80% vote pretty much speaks pretty loudly for the city of Wellington and where they want to be with Cali College.
That was an 80% vote for a sales tax to support community.
Well, the unfortunate thing is if you would not have published this developer's agreement prior to the council seeing it, none of this not until Friday. It would have not have been made public until Friday. I don't know how many people up here on this council, excuse me, Mr. Wetta, did not see it prior to the public, or prior to Mrs. Hawley publishing it on her Facebook page.
Right.
I know I didn't see it. I know I didn't see it. I know none of these folks
Okay,
actually
you know
saw
what,
it.
let me talk because she's pointing the finger at me. You wanna talk transparency, that's transparency. Why was it planned to come out on a Friday afternoon agenda over a holiday weekend and not given us to the second that it was signed?
Because there's nothing to hide. There's absolutely nothing to
My
hide.
job-
I would like to address.
No, my job as a city council person is to see what the public wants and to get their feedback so I can adequately represent them up here. The only way the public can give me feedback is if the public has information. My comment.
Work sessions are open.
My comment on Facebook was not anti-college, it wasn't anti-economic development, it wasn't anti-mayor, it was, this is what's happening, give me your thoughts.
And it was unethical.
All it was.
It was horribly unethical, Mrs. Hawley.
May I say something?
Yes, Mr. Valentine.
Okay, I don't know how many Democrats and Republicans are out there, but this reminds me of Washington. This reminds me of Obamacare. Let's pass it and we'll worry about it later. You can't do that. You cannot do that. We owe the people of this city something.
And we're giving, and hopefully we're giving them.
When you don't even know the number of people that voted, you know a percentage, but not the number of people. 80% may say, yeah, but if it's 80% of 844, which voted for this council, these new council members, back in whenever it was, why, hell, that's not much. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying here? If it's 80% of 200 people that voted, that's not a whole lot. I would like a number.
All right.
I would like a number. And I'm not against education. I'm all for education. But I am so concerned about the people of this community. The people are actually surviving now. And I was wrong on my percentage of Social Security. I was corrected on that 2 meetings ago. I said 54%. It's 56%. And they're living on $800 a month to $1,100 a month. And I'm not willing to strap my butt to something like this and then have this come back on me. I've lived here all my life. I know most of these people. How watch me grow up? No. I want figures. I want solid, sound figures. And if you say 80%, I want to know that number. You also said businesses. You were called here because of businesses. Who were the businesses? Can you give me a list of those businesses, Doctor?
GKN, Trump, Trump,
Triumph.
Trump, sorry, Triumph, yeah, too much on reading of media, tech, and also Can Okla were some of the key ones. We're also busy now with Clark, we're also busy with Walmart. What's that?
What about the small businesses? It appears to me, and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here, I'm trying to get, like she said, some transparency. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not aiming a gun at anyone, but what I'm saying is this. The people you talk to, what wage bracket were they in? Do you have any idea? Yes, it has everything to do with it, Mr. Butts. Everything. Wages have a part in everything. I'm a businessman. I know dollars and cents. The use of my common sense and these taxpayers' dollars.
Sir, I cannot speak to the monies they made, but I can say that almost 700 were high school students, and I don't think their wages were significant. If they were, they would have been minimum wage, sir, to be very transparent.
So now you have a number. You have a number. You talked to 700
That's for the survey,
people.
the first meeting.
No, over 1,000 respondents, and those also included adults outside of high school. That's a survey, and then there were focus groups.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Riddle, I appreciate it. All right.
Mayor Hansel, I have Mr. Valentine's number of how many voters for the city of
Thank
Wellington.
you, Mrs. Davis. Please come forward.
2,843 total of Wellington 1 and 2 precinct.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor, but before we take a vote, I wanna say a few things. Everybody else got to say their part? I'd like to say a few things myself. Mr. Wetta, would you like to go first?
Well, you said I haven't got to talk on it.
Go ahead.
The problem, I think, is people think this was a spur of the moment thing. And as Dr. Riddle I've been going to these meetings. I've been meetings all over town that we've had when the Shorts gave the land. And clear back when he was getting started, somehow or another, there's an impression out there that we're covering something up, that we're not being transparent. This guy has been transparent about everything. The meetings I've been to, every question has been answered. We can have the same questions that have already been answered are gonna be answered again.
Yep.
Because I've been to these meetings and he's answered every question anybody asked him. If we wanna do this, if that's what the council wants to do, that's fine with me, but I think it's a waste of time. Now, the people who think this just started, that all right, we're gonna build a college, don't understand what has gone into this, and he explained it very well. This is not a spur of the moment deal, and he's answered every question, nothing's been covered up. There's transparency all the way through this. The city, the county, the college, everybody has been involved, and they've answered every question anybody asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wetta. All right, Mr. Butts.
As one council member, just as Mrs. Holly was making her statement, the work session that was referred to earlier in this conversation, if you want to call it that, we instructed the staff, the City of Wellington staff, to go into negotiations and a developer's agreement with Cali's people. And we had the feeling that we thought a 50% agreement as far as the cost was a very equitable thing for us and for them, as much as we felt like they were bringing to this community. And we're sitting up here right now arguing about something. The main point that needs to be made is this council is not supposed to, was not elected and or appointed to sit down and try to dissect developers' agreements. We were elected to make decisions. Make decisions. There's nobody on this council right now that's intelligent enough to know how to dissect the numbers we're talking about. Dr. Riddle has been very eloquent in telling us what's involved in the school. We have staff people that are pretty darn good with negotiating development agreements, okay? Probably haven't been real successful with it because look at this town, because it doesn't have just a hell of a lot of development going. When we left that work session, we instructed Shane and his people to sit down and work out a developer's agreement. That's exactly what he did. Tonight, we were supposed to make a decision on that. And here we sat squabbled. I was not put on this board to have anything to do with making a decision about $1 here or $1 there, or how much or what income pays what percentage. That's already been decided in an election. I think we either need to vote on this thing tonight, or we need to apologize to the Cali people. We need to also apologize to the people that run this city. There's been a hell of a lot of hours spent. I know of 2 or 3 or 4 meetings last week because I was in this building talking to Mr. Shields about various things, and he had to abruptly leave our little session because he had to attend the meeting with either architects, finance VPs, Dr. Riddle, contractors, whoever. As I repeat, the people on this council were elected to make decisions. That's what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
All right. Did you have something you wanted to add, Mrs. Holly? No. All right, so, thank you, gentlemen. I don't know if I could say anything else other than I'm sorry for those of you who feel misled. But there has been a lot of time to get involved and get educated on this issue. Nobody, especially Cali College or this council, is trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. And to actually quote Mrs. Holly, I thought our word was our word. And we gave our word that we wanted to be a partner with Cali College. I have heard from people that I greatly respect in this community, including Dr. Anderson, Linda Coleman, who's the HR person for Tech Aerospace, Angie Ratcliffe, who is on the school board. She realizes how important this is. Kathy Sheets, who's a local realtor, and Susan Johnston, who also is an HR person out of GKN. This is a game changer. And Kip, when you use the word lose, I can't even imagine how bringing higher education to our community is a loss for anyone. That is unfathomable to me. Now, I will tell you, was this my choice of the route to go by impressing a sales tax which greatly affects most of the lower income people in our community? No. But I'm sorry, the county commissioners, and I'm sorry, Mr. Newell, because I know you're here, but the county commissioners chose not to offer any kind of mill levy increase. They said the only thing they would consider is a sales tax, countywide sales tax on a ballot in November. So if you want to go back and be mad at somebody, I would say let's take a look at our county commissioners and the decision that they made for all of us without even asking us how we felt.
Well, we got the blame game going on, is that it?
Mr. Newell, I am speaking, thank you. But we are forced now to make a decision with what we've been given, and that is a sales tax. And it is not generating enough money to build the kind of campus we originally wanted. But thank God for Dr. Riddle and the contractors and the different people that he's working with, and the Short family, which was a godsend by donating the land, that we now have an opportunity to take Wellington to the future. And I just want to say, Dr. Riddle was right. There are several other communities in Sumner County that are waiting in the wings for this campus. And not only would they pay 50%, they'll pay 100%. They'll give anything they can to have this campus in their community.
Thought it wasn't going anywhere.
Mr. Hamilton, I'm not asking your opinion.
Sorry.
So, at this point, I have a motion and a second to table this. So, Madam Clerk, I do need a roll call vote.
Butts?
No.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Wetta?
No.
Mr. Etter?
Yes.
Mrs. Holly?
Yes.
We have 3 affirmative and 2 negative. And I believe the mayor may break.
No, it's over.
No, it's over.
Nope. And Mrs. Cordy unfortunately was not able to call it, so. Which she supports this, and I don't think she would be upset that I said that. And that's why it was so important for her to call in tonight. But unfortunately, I'm sure something very drastic happened that she was not able to do so. All right, with that being said, let's move on.
So if you're going to table it, you need to table it to a specific date and time for the public's benefit.
Well, I can say right now that Mr. DeJarnett and myself will not be here on the 19th. And so I would like, because we're taking this alternate route, to not have it happen on a night that I cannot be present. If you can't be professional, then I'd ask you to leave, please.
As I said before, I have no problem having a special meeting, so given anybody's calendar, I'll do whatever I can to work around.
Well, I'd say the sooner the better, so these guys can have some answers and we can move forward.
Absolutely.
When is Jan gonna be back?
12 days.
When's the shortest, do we have to have 2 days, or what is it by law that we have to, can we have it this week?
Law is reasonable notice, your rules of procedure require 24-hour notice.
Today's Tuesday, can we have it Thursday?
You're talking a work session.
Work session,
For this?
my
So that
understanding,
these folks can get their answers.
my understanding, you want a work session first.
Yes.
If that's the case, then the special meeting has to occur also.
We can have a special meeting afterwards.
Yes, that's a possibility.
Is that all right with everybody? How about having a work session Thursday?
Okay. And Councilmember Cordy will not be back, as you just.
Well, but I think if we get our questions answered, we're gonna have the votes.
Yeah, and the 7th works for me.
Dr. Riddle,
Auditorium board meeting
Dr.
at
Riddle,
5:30.
if we get this done this week, can we keep going? If we get the votes this week? I mean, there's no sense being in a hurry to get this done if it isn't gonna make any difference.
It seems like if we can get it done this week, we may be able to salvage the timeline. However, not all members on the team here will be available. I know our civil engineer will not be available that evening to answer questions. I looked at my calendar, I can make allocations to be here that night for sure.
Is that going to leave a gap in your potential to answer any questions, or is there somebody that could fill in that? Yeah, I don't know exactly what questions that individual would field.
Is there any reason why staff could not answer questions like civil engineering, Jeremy? Certainly you don't have the education
Depends on
of the
what
staff.
time I have another meeting that night, I may not be available depending on what time you meet.
Not having an idea what the questions are, may I recommend to keep this whole ordeal moving is that you submit questions to us. I mean, not wait till that night, go ahead and, at least council members, provide us the questions that you have, so we can already work through the answers to have them prepared.
That would work on this end, if we had like a deadline, maybe tomorrow at a certain time, so we could have time to research.
Yeah, we can get tomorrow by noon, and get the questions from you.
Well, I don't know what time you wanna do this.
That's why I'm asking what time you want to do, 5:30, 6
I'll
o'clock?
have to check mine.
Will 6 o'clock work for everybody? And then we have a work session.
Auditorium board meets at 5:30, but
So 6:30?
I think I'm okay if I'm not there. I don't know, I mean, I'd like to be there, we have events coming up.
So why don't we just do 6:30?
6:30, work session?
I wanna
Yeah,
make
and then we'll be
one
done by
for you.
6:30.
I'll be there.
I was gonna say, if you're the ones with the questions, so we've gotta make sure this works for you, so. On the 7th at 6:30?
Now, here's the question, if we set a time for a work session, do we have to set a time for a special meeting? Or can it just follow the work session?
That be published?
You have to set it to have notice.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought.
You have to have.
What's the period, how long?
So what do you?
Why not the 8th? Just come back on Friday at noon and get her done.
Now you got another day.
Well, and that is the problem with delaying this, so.
So that doesn't involve the school, that just involves us.
So why don't we just make the meetings for, or the special session for 8:30, if that, in 2 hours we can't get the answers, or questions answered, then so be it. And if we have to leave and come back,
Does that give us the time we need?
so special, or I mean, a work session at
Gives you
6:30.
the time you need if you feel you can accomplish what your whole questions are in 2 hours time limit. Now, you also talked about having the public comment, if that's your intent, I'm not sure 2 hours.
Can we limit the public to 5 minutes or something?
At a work session, you can limit the public to, to whatever you determine, per your rule of procedure, whether it be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or otherwise.
Kelly, if
I think if we do 6:30 and then set the meeting for 8:30, we'll have a vote, we're done with it.
So moved.
A second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that I guess we don't have to necessarily take a vote on.
Yeah.
Oh, on to set a special meeting.
Special meeting.
Okay. Moved and seconded that we set a special meeting for this Wellington City Council for Thursday evening, September 7th at 8:30 p.m., which would be following a work session that will start at 6:30. So all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no.
I have a question. There was a comment about limiting public comment. There are plenty of people that would like to make a comment. I think 5 minutes is very, very minimal.
Well, I think 2 hours is gonna go by quickly.
Ma'am,
I would suggest.
what I'm gonna ask people on Facebook and everybody I see to send me, email me, text me their questions. I would like to be able to compile questions in the next 30 hours or whatever, 20 hours, and get those submitted, so it moves along. So, I mean, write them down as you sit there and hand them to me on the way out. I think that
There you
would
go.
be a lot more efficient.
There you go. All right.
What is the deadline for questions? Maybe until 6 p.m. that evening, or?
Yeah, 1 hour before the meeting. Whatever you want. I'm not doing it.
We don't have questions, so it's your part.
We discussed earlier that we would have the questions submitted by noon, since our civil engineer will be out of town. Can we stand to that?
Great, I
So
think
we can
that's
get
a
that to-
wonderful idea.
Noon on that day?
No,
tomorrow. Perfect, perfect.
I mean, if after all this time, you don't know what your questions are, and you can't just simply jot them down and send them to Mrs. Hawley or any of the rest of us, then I'm not sure what else we can provide, so. We are under a very strict timeline. I'm not trying to be rude or anything else. I'm just trying to make progress happen in my community. And so, I think it's a fair deal. We're postponing the vote tonight. We're giving you time to ask your questions. Send them all to Mrs. Hawley. I don't care, whatever you wanna do. We need to move on. All right. So, with that being said, okay, so Shane, it looks like we have a lot of resolutions now that don't matter.
Yeah, items 3 and 4 would also need to be tabled simply
Okay.
because they relate to the developers agreement, the petition submitted. So if someone would like to make that motion to table.
It's been moved and seconded that we table resolutions number 3 and 4 pertaining to Cali College.
Now, on that topic, with those 2 resolutions, bond counsel, Mr. Cowan, is here tonight, for that purpose. If he could maybe go ahead and explain what you wish to explain about the petition process. I don't know whether he could be present Thursday night or not. I don't know that it would be necessary, but at least so you understand, the petitions are submitted related to the developers agreement. The petitions are for paving and for the electric. The action, the resolution takes action to accept the petition, and they outline the payment percentages as in the developer's agreement. So that's the synopsis. Is there anything to add to that, Mr. Count?
I'm not sure I have anything to add to that. I will add that we did spend some time talking about the ordering of things on the agenda, and so if the developer's agreement is first, then these things flow from it, and the petitions have percentages and numbers that flow from the developer's agreement and the spreadsheet that was attached. So that may present something of a challenge if there are changes to the developer's agreement in terms of percentages, that then the petition, which has been signed by Cali College, would also have to change, and we might have to try to do that on the fly that night, or maybe it's agreeable that if the developer's agreement gets approved that night, if the percentage changes, then maybe we make those changes and those come back, on the 19th, and just having the developer's agreement approved is gonna be sufficient for the college to proceed with what they need to do. So, again,
We will work out the legalities of that and then have some idea how to proceed for Thursday night. But any other questions about the petition, the process, and those two resolutions?
Where are we at? Somehow or another, I ended up in this seat.
We had a motion and second to table. Did they take the vote on table? Okay, so if no other questions for Mr. Cowan, those items 3 and 4 are tabled until the Thursday night special meeting also.
But he can go ahead and discuss it now, or is he going to be here on Thursday as well?
I have a commitment. I can probably be here at 8:30. The 6:30 would be the check.
The petition is simply petitioning because of, the statutory requirements
Right.
to authorize us to be able to assess that cost. So paving and the electric. I don't know that there's going to be any really specific questions. If we work through the developer's agreement, that should address everything else, so.
I just wanna make sure that if we get to the point where we can have the vote, and it looks like it's gonna pass, that we don't have some kind of a snafu or something like this.
Right, we'll confirm the legalities of that petition, and having some method to assure we can accomplish that all in all. No other questions for Mr. Cowan?
So are we good then? You'll be here at 8:30?
Yes.
Is that, or the best?
I know I have to be, and it's someplace in Sedgwick County, at St. Louis, so I'm not gonna be far away. And again, what I mentioned earlier, the challenge is going to be that these petitions and the resolutions are drafted based on what's in the developer's agreement, so if that changes, we may not be able to take action that night on those. And again, that may be fine, with your commitment under the developer's agreement. The college may say, we're comfortable with that. We can get these authorizing resolutions taken care of on the 19th. If there aren't any changes to the developer's agreement after you talk through things on Thursday, then as presented tonight, petitions and resolutions would take care of those.
The one thing I would offer my opinion on, if obviously the developer's agreement is accepted at some point, the petitions and then also the ordinance for the sewer portion and the resolution for the water portion will follow at some later date. And obviously, hopefully, if the developer's agreement is passed, approved, then logically, you would not expect issues with the others to follow, depending upon who's present, who's not, in the future meetings that occur. So, developer's agreement is key, obviously, the first thing. So, Mayor, where we're at this moment is items 3 and 4 resolutions have been tabled until at least Thursday night. At this point, we're determining how to deal with the changes that might occur that night and addressing those. And if that, if no other questions for Mr. Cowan, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for Mr. Cowan for coming tonight, regardless of further, so. And I will say, on behalf of Mrs. Cordy, unfortunately, she has been trying to call and was not getting any kind of reception. It doesn't have anything to do with, I think, on our end, it was on her end, unfortunately. So, we love technology when it works and not when it fails. All right, moving on. Looks like our next, item is is it 5? Okay. A resolution amending and supplementing resolution number 5778 of the city of Wellington, Kansas, which authorized and provided for the making of certain improvements to the Wellington Municipal Airport and existing public building.
Yes, Mayor, Mr. Cowan was present for this item too. Fortunately, he didn't leave when I said goodbye, but this is the airport project. If you remember, we authorized this project back in October of last year. Those were based on estimated cost amounts. We now know the final cost, we know the final grant amount. This resolution simply updates those numbers. And Mr. Cowan, to add to that?
No, that is really it. Resolution number 5778 already exists authorizing the project, had an estimated cost. It just needed to be updated because it was no longer accurate. So section 2 of that resolution is what's being amended to get the updated estimated cost, and nothing else is changing.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right.
You ready for a motion?
I am, sir. All right. Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution amending and supplementing resolution number 5778 for the making of certain improvements to the Wellington Municipal Airport and existing public meeting. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Etter?
Yes.
Mrs. Holly?
Yes.
Mr. Bus?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Resolution 5839.
Thank you
Thank you.
again, and appreciate you coming down
You're welcome.
and sitting through that.
See if there's
Yeah. All right, our next resolution is approving and accepting a bid and authorizing the city manager to execute a purchase order with PFP Products for Progress Incorporated of Newton, Kansas for the replacement of the volumetric feeder system for the water production department in the amount of $51,558.50.
Water production item, Mr. Newberry will provide details.
Mayor, Council, this is a volumetric feed pump for water production. This is a piece of equipment that is used for the production of water that we send to town. It's a 21-year-old piece of equipment. It is currently still operating, though it is giving us some issues. We're having trouble getting parts, and maintenance on it is being very difficult to get scheduled just because of the age of the equipment. We did have money budgeted for this year. We had $49,500 budgeted. As you can see on the report that I gave you, both quotes came in just slightly over that. Not really sure what drove up that price. The one quote came in just barely over it. The one that we are recommending with PFP is roughly $2,000 over the budgeted amount. The difference between the two quotes, though, is the quote with JCI is reusing part of the equipment that is already at the plant. So we're reusing 21-year-old equipment. The PFP quote is brand new, tip to tip. We felt that that was probably the best way to go, the most cost-effective way to go today. It is a stainless steel hopper too versus fiberglass, so that'll help a lot. You can imagine the corrosive environment that we have at the water production plant. And then it also incorporates a, for lack of a better term, a bat system in the hopper that kind of knocks the carbon down within the hopper. Right now, our guys are actually having to physically go knock on the side of the hopper and even actually use poles to try to knock the carbon down in the hopper. So we think it's going to be a remarkable improvement in the plant, and so our recommendation is to move forward with the bid with PFP for $51,558.50.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve a resolution and approving and accepting.
All I wanted to know is you said how much you have budgeted, that's all I wanted to know.
$49,500 budget
Okay,
for
that's
this
all
year.
I wanted to know, that's what I thought.
All right.
Jim?
What?
I said sorry, forgot
No,
to
that's
ask
fine.
those questions.
I just can't hear that well.
Been moved and seconded that we approve a resolution accepting a bid and authorizing the city manager to execute purchase order with PFP Products of Newton for the replacement of the volumetric feeder system. Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Butts?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yeah.
Mr. Wetta?
Yes.
Mr. Etter?
Yes.
Mrs. Holly?
Yes.
And that is 5 affirmative for resolution 5840.
All right, our next resolution is approving and accepting bids and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Basinger Police Supply for the purchase of 13 Safari Land SX02 Level 3A ballistic vests in the amount of $12,350. Chief,
Madam Mayor, how are you?
I'm great.
Good. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read my remarks. This is to replace 13, for no better term, bulletproof vests. If you recall, back in 2012, we did this. However, in 2012, we replaced 17. The reason why we're not replacing 17 at this point is I have 4 new officers, for no better terms. The life expectancy of bulletproof vest, and when I say the life expectancy, that's a manufacturer's recommendation, is 5 years. Although the vest probably will last longer than that, they will not warranty the vest, nor will they guarantee the vest after a period of 5 years. When we talk about bulletproof vest, we're talking about soft body armor. We're talking basically about 3 threat levels. This is based on what is called the NIJ 06 standard, which in other words is the National Institute of Justice 06 standards. You talk about threat level 2A, threat level 2, threat level 3A, which is soft body armor. Currently, Wellington officers are wearing threat level 2. When you look at those different levels, it just simply affords protection as you go up in each level. The highest soft body armor is threat level, 3A. This recommendation is to increase from 2 that we're currently wearing to 3A. We entertained quotes from 2 vendors. When I say 2 vendors, in the Wichita area, Basinger Police Supply, as well as recently, approximately a year ago, if you're familiar with Gall's Police Supply, but they opened up what's called a service center in Wichita. They provided a quote as well. But the recommendation is to go with the Basinger Police Supply in the amount of $12,350. We currently have $16,000 budgeted. In addition to that, in the latter part of July, I applied for a bulletproof vest grant program, which, if awarded, will fund up to 50% of the vest purchase. So if we are awarded, which we will know at the end of September, whether or not we will receive that award, but then that means that this total cost will be $61.75. So I would recommend the Basinger Police Supply quote in the amount of $12,350.
Move to approve, but I have one question.
Certainly.
What do you do with the old vest? I just wanna know. I'm just out of curiosity.
We destroy it.
Okay, that's all I wanna know.
Yes.
If anybody's gonna need one, I'll take one.
In a fun way.
Occasionally we'll take one out to the range and shoot it. If you want to join us, I'll let you know.
Kidding, not kidding.
I will second his motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution approving and accepting bids with Basinger Police Supply for the purchase of 13 3A ballistic vests. All right, Madam Clerk.
Who seconded that motion?
I think it was Mrs. Holly.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Etter?
Yes.
Mr. Wett?
Yes.
Mr. Butts?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
5 affirmative votes for resolution 5841.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Tell the guys thank you and the gals.
Certainly.
Appreciate all they do. A resolution authorizing the city manager to sign an agreement with Professional Engineering Consultants, PA of Wichita for the Wellington Lake and Hargis Creek Dam inspection services in the amount of $15,650.
This is required dam inspections of both of those. Director Jones can provide details.
This will be a contract with our consulting engineer, PEC. Wellington Lake is a Class B significant hazard dam, requires inspection every 5 years. Hargis Creek Watershed is a Class C high hazard dam and is required to be inspected every 3 years. Hargis is a higher classification due to the number of people downstream should something significant happen. This is pretty standard stuff here. We do have an annual inspection, a pretty simple walkthrough, but this is going to be a more detailed inspection each of those facilities. The cost breakdown, the Hargis Creek inspection is $8,850 to be covered in the engineering operating budget. The lake is $6,800 and will be covered in the utility fund.
All right, any comments or question?
I move we do it.
I hear your damn resolution, motion. I wanted to say something like that, it didn't come out very funny. All right, so I have a motion to approve this resolution in a second. Mr. Eder, did you second it? Yeah, Mr. Eder seconded it, so, but thank you, Bill, for the backup second. So, I have a motion and a second to approve this resolution to sign this agreement with professional engineering consultants for the Wellington Lake and Hargis Dam inspections. Madam Clerk, please a roll call.
Mr. Eder?
Yes.
Mrs. Hawley?
Yes.
Mr. Butts?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Again, 5 affirmative votes for
Yes.
resolution 5842.
Yes.
I marked you down.
Sorry.
Forget it.
I guess you vote yes.
Oops. Oh, well.
It's late.
Carol's just that good. She can read your mind. She just
I think
knows.
she's ready to get done.
Aren't we all? All right, a resolution, the next one is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept an agreement. This is the one that everybody wishes they probably would have stayed for. With Bradburn Wrecking Company of Wichita, Kansas for the demolition of the structure located at 107 West Lincoln, also known as Lincoln Place.
This is the agreement for Lincoln Place. As you recall, the insurance proceeds that we were released to us, $285,000. This is the bid from, well, not the bid, but the proposal from Bradburn to demo the building at a charge of $300,000 and then plus $29,775 for the asbestos windows or casings. Obviously that 285 doesn't quite meet that. The additional funds, will have to be covered either several ways there. I mean, we're looking at what maybe remain in the budget. Director Jones has had direct contact with Bradburn, so he can provide maybe a few more details if you have any questions. But this is the agreement to demo.
Didn't we say something about, are we collecting the landfill fees or is that already figured in? That's already negotiated in that price?
We essentially started they started at $355,000 plus the $29,000 for the windows. The $29,000 is kind of a non-negotiable.
Right.
So $355,000, they knocked off tipping fees, and came back at $325,000, and then after further discussion, they were able to get down to $300,000 by scheduling, beginning the project no later than the last day of November. And the city staff will assist loading their trucks with borrowed material to fill in the excavated area.
Okay, and give me the timeline again, what'd you say?
As late November.
Starting.
That would be a late start date.
Late November?
Yes.
Yeah.
That,
Well,
if
that's
we
the
wanted
latest.
sooner, they would probably take $325,000.
Right.
They would have to speed up some other projects at additional cost, and that was gonna be our expense.
Anybody else have any comments, Mr. Eder, did you wanna say something?
I'm just gonna follow the same lines I always have with regards to these, and I hate to see us tear down a building downtown. I hate to see us turn it into a parking lot. I understand it's an issue. I still feel that if you were to advertise it and find a qualified person offering them $300,000 like we've already done with the building down here, and they put their own money, I think I think there would be somebody that would be interested. So that's just my take on it.
Footings?
I actually just saw
As much as
on.
possible.
What?
As much as possible.
So if I'm not
To the-
mistaken,
to the
the original
point-
bid, the original bid said something about 70,000 more for just footings, correct?
Yes, but
That's
hold
what
on, I
got-
don't think Mr. Etter was
I'm
done
sorry.
with his thought.
Yes, I apologize.
I was just gonna finish with saying, I actually just saw on social media yesterday, Forbes magazine is actually holding a contest with regards to downtowns in the Midwest and how important they are. They're asking for submitting pictures, and the one that they always go back to and one that's always awarded is Pella, Iowa. I've been to Pella, Iowa, it's a beautiful downtown, but I'll be honest with you, it's not a whole lot different than the structures that we have here. And one of the things that I know I've heard over and over with regards to our downtown is the dental work. That's the reference to all the buildings, and that we have very full dental work down here. So it's just very sad to see something like that, a piece of history go. I understand that it's got some structural issues, but I think that we have a responsibility to history and to our downtown to at least look at the effort, make an effort to try and save that building. That's my own thought. Thank
All
you.
right, Forbes magazine, somebody look into that real fast. Okay, go Bill.
Footings, sorry about that.
The original number from insurance was to bury a lot of the debris on site, including the foundation, the basement walls, foundation. That was, I don't remember that number off the top of my head, but it was considerably less. To try to get the site to a condition that could be redeveloped, we're gonna try to remove as much of that material as possible without requiring shoring or caving in of the sidewalks or alley. Or obviously, we have property next door to the north that great care needs to be taken, so. We've looked at a lot of different angles, we've had many discussions. We acquired the property approximately 2 months ago.
Roughly, yes.
So, I know it's not, late November's not the best time, but, we're trying to limit the out-of-pocket dollars.
Well, I just remember from the original estimates, it was like $255,000 or something like that, plus another $70,000 to tear out the footings. And now it's escalated up to $300,000, we get part of the footings, right? Not gonna be footings, it's just gonna be part of the basement wall, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's
Something
partial
down below-
basement,
down
the west half has a basement, the east half is gonna be footings,
Okay.
so.
Part of that cost increase related to the inspection that was done, and they can only have limited access to the building to the north,
Correct.
I mean, the roof, so that impacted that final cost also.
I was just hopeful we wouldn't have to dig, that's what I'm saying, out of our pocket, I mean.
And we missed the deadline for the Forbes contest, unfortunately. All right, any other questions, comments?
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded that we approve this resolution authorizing our city manager to accept this agreement with Bradford Wrecking of Wichita for the demolition of Lincoln Place. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mr. Wetta,
Yes.
Mr. Etter,
No.
Mrs. Holly,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. I got lost. Okay, 5 affirmative for resolution 5843.
All right, so we don't have any study items, and Mr. Shields, is there anything else?
No. Work session, 6:30 PM on the 7th. And the special meeting at 8:30.
6:30 is the work session here.
Special meeting will be the developers agreement. I just want to confirm there's no other items you wish to have on that special meeting. The developers agreement, perhaps the petitions and resolutions, if we can, we'll
work out the legalities of that, maybe able to get those on there. I mean, we'll confirm that tomorrow, but any other items?
I have one question from you. I got the 12 p.m. deadline tomorrow. Is that, are we to submit to you and you will all forward?
That would be the-
I guess I'm not sure what I do with them now.
That would be the simplest. I mean, you get them to
Okay.
me, I'll forward them to the college or whoever
We
most
can email
appropriate.
to you and then
Can most appropriately answer those, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Well, that way I guess you answer some.
I just texted her. All right. Anything else?
I do have one more little announcement
Yes.
since the council candidates are here. Sherry's Army is going to be September 23rd, and we're going to formally invite, you'll be getting your letters in the mail, the council candidates to come and participate in a cleanup, or at least come for an early morning meet and greet. And then you can hang out and walk the neighborhood with us. It's fun.
Did you
Just a
send
heads
where
up
they're
that it's
meeting?
coming.
Did you,
No, I said I'll send them a formal letter, just giving them a heads up now.
and what neighborhood is it?
I won't pick that till about the 16th.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn this meeting of the Wellington City Council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.